Hello, everyone. This is Day Sanchez from Twin Minds, and today I have the pleasure of having Dr. Paula Wilkes join me for an amazing conversation. And before we get started, I would like to share Dr. Wilkes' bio. So, she is a coach for gifted children and adults. She provides cognitive coaching, counseling, and consultation for parents and students on gifted and twice exceptional issues, including sensitivity and intensity. In addition, she is a coach for gifted and twice exceptional adults who might be struggling with issues related to misdiagnosis, multi-potentiality, anxiety, and a desire to make a stronger connection to their spiritual sensitivity. She has worked in gifted education for more than 35 years as a public school teacher, a university professor, and a gifted consultant. She has experience with bioenergy work that promotes wellness and modulates the negative impacts of high sensitivity and intensity. So, Paula, thank you so much for being here. I am really excited to have you. I would like to start off by maybe asking you, Paula, to share what you mean by spiritually sensitive people. Is this the same as highly sensitive people? What about people with sensory processing sensitivities? Can you maybe give us some background and your views on this so that we can go into a deeper conversation about how to support children or young adults who might feel that they can be described under these words, and maybe any parents who might be watching, they can also learn maybe some tools or some strategies to support these children and young adults.
Okay, well, I definitely think that high sensitivity is probably necessary to be spiritually sensitive, but I don't think it necessarily means that children who are highly sensitive are also spiritually sensitive. But I think we all have that potential. And in some ways, we need to calm down our high sensitivities in order to be able to reach out and be able to experience and express our spiritual sensitivity. So when I was really searching for myself to try to figure out what it is that was happening to me, where I would feel like I was making a connection to people who had already passed over, or feeling as though I was being guided in some ways, rather than like listening to the yakking, cognitive mind to just know information was coming from other places, I started doing lots of reading, and I became a seeker of trying to find out, what is this? And I came upon this book that I like so much, The Spiritual Child. And I'd like to go to the definition that she has that I think really helped me. And that's that natural spirituality is a direct sense of listening to the heartbeat of the living universe, of being one with that seen and unseen world, open and at ease in that connection. A child's spirituality precedes and transcends language, culture, and religion. And I was just thinking this morning how sometimes I might be in an elevator and there's a very small child who can't yet speak, who just looks at me in a way where I feel like I'm making a connection with that child, and it's like it's beyond words and all. So I feel like we probably do come into this world, with a connection to something higher, another way of knowing, and then maybe most of us lose it and have to try to get it back again. One of the things that I love the most about a spiritual sensitivity is a real communication, a back and forth with, some people may say it's God, some may say it's universal energy, some may say it's nature, whatever that word is they have, there's a way that, we can ask for guidance and we can receive it, whether it's through knowings, through clairsentience, any of the senses, hearing or knowing that information. And it's just really changed my life since I've been able to start having the feeling that I'm having a really deep connection.
Mhm. And thank you for sharing that. So, when would you say that you came to that realization that you were picking up things from different people or that you were sensitive to these things?
When I look back on it now, I realize I was a very sensitive child from birth. But I didn't realize at the time what that was. And there was a real misunderstanding about that because other people were telling me there was something wrong with me. So I was labeled as a hypochondriac because I might get a stomach ache. And I realize now when you read about gifted children, how many gifted and 2E kids get stomach aches when there are other kinds of issues.
Mhm.
But you know, when you're a sensitive child and you come into a family where there's chaos, either chaos that the parents experienced and are then living out as you're a child, or chaos within your own family, it's very difficult when you're sensitive. You may feel like, oh, maybe I came in to try to solve the problems for these people or help them, or maybe I was just trying to live in a more calm life. So I was trying to feel my feelings less so it wouldn't feel so chaotic. So rather than feeling like I have these wonderful gifts of sensitivity and they're really going to help me and I'm going to be able to communicate with a higher source, instead it was mainly like negative self-talk about, oh, there I am, or why do I have to be so sensitive, or why can't I enjoy this like other people enjoy it. And then I had the tragedy of losing my brother to suicide just short of his 50th birthday. And I started receiving these God winks, these synchronicities from my brother. Many of them came through the natural world as birds, and birds that I hadn't seen in my yard before, or birds that would be obviously trying to get my attention. And about 2 days before my father died, this was almost 6 years ago now, we had moved from Eugene, Oregon down to Los Angeles. So of course I wasn't seeing, you know, the same kind of birds that I had seen in Eugene, you know, woodpeckers and all. But 2 days before my father died, a bird arrived on our balcony that we had never seen before. We had never even had a bird on our balcony, and we had lived there for about a year and a half. And I really felt like this bird was there for a reason, and I didn't know what it was. And then 2 days later, my father died. And so what I like to do when I've had a very strong synchronicity is see if I can find something that will become a visual metaphor that whenever I see it, it will remind me just how great this universal knowing and communication is. So I went online and purchased this bird, and we have never seen this bird again, but this is the bird that appeared on our balcony. And I was always hoping I would see it again, but I didn't. And then more recently, um, every year around the date of my brother's suicide, I would always remember it. It's been 20 years now, but there's just something where in the first few years, it was very difficult. And then after that, you know, I might look for synchronicities or, you know, just communicate with him, let him know how much I had loved him. He was my older brother. And this year, for some reason, it just wasn't on my radar. And April 30th came, and I wasn't even thinking about that day and where he was and everything. And a bird appeared on the railing of this apartment we're in now. And again, it's not like we have birds on the railing all the time, but you know, this time it was a mourning dove. And fascinating, mourning as in being in mourning rather than, you know, morning versus night. So this mourning dove was there, and a friend came over to visit me, and this dove was there, and I just mentioned it to her, but then it started like walking back and forth on the railing, and we're both looking at it like, that's odd. And then all of a sudden it occurred to me that maybe this was some kind of a message and I needed to think about it. And it ended up that it was the anniversary, the 20-year anniversary of my brother's death. So then we didn't see the bird again until mid-June, and this mourning dove is there again. But this time when I open the curtains to look outside on our balcony, it's sitting on a little table. And the day before, my husband had cleaned the balcony, and I thought it was like a joke from him that he had purchased this dove because it was sitting there perfectly still. And I just said, oh, that dove, like I was going to thank him. And he said, that is really odd. It is just sitting there and not moving. And I was like, you mean it's real? And so sure enough, it was just staring at us and staring at us. And I was like, okay, there must be something to this. And then I said to my husband, I think Ed's daughter is getting married this month. Maybe today's the day of her wedding. And so I Googled her name, and sure enough, she was getting married that day. And we haven't seen the dove since. So it's just so interesting. But of course, I had to go online and find myself a replica of that dove, and it now sits on that little table on the balcony, just again as a reminder to me of just how sweet this opportunity is for us to be alive, because almost every day I'm graced with synchronicities or God winks, and it's just a reminder of just how luscious it is to be alive.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I love when you were talking about birds. That's actually something that when you were sharing all of that, I'm like, birds. They also call me in a way that is just difficult to describe. But another thing that was really important that you mentioned was the finding a metaphor or finding a visual to remind you of that, because I feel that this inner guidance, it gives us some like a nudge, and if we're distracted, we might miss it. But if we're paying attention, these synchronicities and these gut wings, like you call them, can be so powerful and can be really helpful in guiding us and in helping us navigate this journey of being a human being in this human body. And you and I have talked a lot about different things, but we know we're multidimensional beings, and I think it's really important that we have these conversations so that children and young adults who might be experiencing these things, they can know that they're not alone and that there's nothing wrong with them, that they are maybe getting this information and picking up on these things because that's their gift, and maybe that's something that they can develop and turn into something different than a challenge, like it happened to you when you were growing up and you were experiencing maybe stomach ache or different physical symptoms. I know many children experience these things, and they might not even know that these things are theirs. They might be picking up from other people or from environments. I'm very sensitive to environments, and I pick up a lot, especially living in New York City. It can be very intense. And I have a friend, we joke a lot about how being in New York is almost like having a PhD in energetic boundaries and being able to feel safe within your body with everything that goes around. So I wanted to ask you, what are some ways or what are some strategies that you have used with your clients to set energetic boundaries and to maybe help them become more aware of how their energy and the energy of others might affect them? How can they have their fields of energy be more positive and not always be picking up things from others?
You know, I had an experience yesterday that I think is probably just perfect. I needed to have it yesterday so I could share it with you as part of this answer. But I feel like some of us are so sensitive, it's as though we are full of little antennae that are just ready to pick up any kind of information, whether we want the information or not. And I think those antennae are great because when we can raise our vibration, it allows us to communicate with a not so dense vibration that's trying to get to us also.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the problems is, and I'm going to use a metaphor again, and I think gifted people like metaphors because it says so much in few words and then you connect other things to it. But I get this feeling like all of us have emotional barrels or emotional containers that can only hold so much before it overflows. And for a child who may have all these antennas like me that, first thing when you wake up, it doesn't mean the barrel is full because you may already be picking something up or something happened in the night. And, or for an adult who sleeps with a partner who's having anxiety, you may be picking up their anxiety and not waking up, in a really nice, fresh mood. So yesterday I was feeling really good. I did my guided writing, my qigong, everything. I was really ready to go. And I had a 10:15 appointment with a doctor. And I walked there and it was a beautiful morning. It's like, what could go wrong? Everything's starting off so well. So I walk into the doctor's office and there's only one doctor in this practice. And there were about 12 people in the waiting room. And I'm like, this is not a good sign. I'm here on time and there are 12 people. So I start looking around the room and saying, well, maybe that woman's with that man. That only counts for one. My analytic mind is just going crazy trying to think, how many people are ahead of me? So then I kind of settled down to, okay, it is what it is. There's no reason you have to worry. There's nothing you have to go on to. Like the barrel was starting to fill and I was trying to do what I could to just be like, it's okay. But then I became aware, and nobody else in the room seemed to be aware of this. They had either it was some kind of a radio station that plays in doctors' offices that's through a satellite, and the satellite was having interference, but the song was like a CD that has a big scratch through it. So the song kept skipping and missing, and I listened through 3 songs and I could just feel the barrel was near the top. And I thought, I'm going to have to say to them, I'm going to wait out in the hallway and you're going to have to let me know when the doctor's ready for me. But instead, I walked up to the front window and I said, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the music just isn't playing right. She said, oh, really? Someone else complained about that yesterday afternoon. And I thought, okay, some poor other sensitive was sitting in here yesterday and got the same experience. So they turned it off and it was like, great. I could handle that some woman was listening to a little video of, I think, her grandchild's birthday party on her phone. And another man was talking to someone, in his native language. So I didn't even know what he was talking about. So the barrel started getting a little bit more. But then a woman comes in and sits right next to me wearing patchouli. And it's a fragrance that I have a sensitivity to. I have a problem with colognes, but the smell of patchouli becomes difficult. So I immediately am at like full barrel. Right. So I decide, okay, I'll just pick up a magazine and look at it and then walk over to a chair somewhere else because the compassionate part of me didn't want the woman to feel like, I was dissing her somehow, but I had to save myself. So I just sauntered over with the magazine and acted like I really wanted to be looking at it. And I helped bring that barrel down. And then by the time I got in, it was like 40 minutes late. And the doctor greeted me right in the entryway and just said, really nice to see you. I'm sorry we're so far behind. And then the barrel just came, down even more. So what that's teaching me is some things happen to us that are out of our control, and it can really fill that barrel. Then what we need to do is say, what is something I can control, and am I going to be willing to not be too embarrassed to take care of myself?
Mm-hmm.
I sat too long with that music playing that way, and my guides were saying, why don't you say something about it? And then egoic mind was saying, look at the other 11 people in this room not paying attention to it. It doesn't seem to be bothering them. And then finally, I just felt like I had to say something. And
Mm-hmm.
then it was so interesting how, for me, the room suddenly felt less chaotic. So maybe I was helping other people too, who aren't like the canary in the mine. They don't know what was bothering them. But by turning that chaotic music off, maybe we were all able to settle down a little bit. So what I try to teach my clients to do is to become exquisitely aware of how they're feeling in the moment so that they can start seeing patterns. Oh, when I smell this, my brain and my heart start feeling a little bit of agitation. Or when I'm with this friend, I just feel like, oh, it's just so much fun to be with this person. I want to be with this person again, as opposed to the person who I was with yesterday, and things just felt anxious and I didn't feel good. So it's about being metacognitive
Mm-hmm.
about your own life. And for kids who are gifted or 2E, so much of the time in school and so much of the time outside of school is about work and thinking and using the cognitive brain. And not enough time is being paid attention to, you know, the thinking gut and the
Mm-hmm.
thinking heart. So
Mm-hmm.
what I try to do is help the kids balance out that there are more ways of knowing, and those of us who are highly sensitive should not rely on the thinking brain
Mm-hmm.
to necessarily be the driving force in helping us get out of situations when our barrels are a little bit too full.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. As you were sharing that, I was feeling this feeling of overwhelm because it's something that I've been working on as well. And I know you and I both have talked about overburdened environments,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted you to maybe share a little bit about what you think is happening on the planet. And I know that highly sensitive people are probably feeling it more, but maybe I think this is starting to spill out into other people as well. So maybe if you can share a little bit about that and your
Yes.
feelings about that.
You know, Day, when we spoke, and this question is just so big, I intuitively felt like I needed to go to guided writing to help me
Mm-hmm.
with this because, you know, I feel like it is impacting all of us. And I love how you just said how it's spilling out to others. You know, those of us who are highly sensitive are aware bad things are happening
Mm-hmm.
with climate change and environments, but other people who think they're not aware, it's happening to them too. And it's like the people who were sitting in the doctor's office yesterday who may not have been cognitively aware of what was happening with the music. And yet when the music stopped, I could just feel the energy in the room come down to a level that was easier to be in. And I think it probably was for a lot of us. So here's what the guidance said. Sweet friends, young and old, but particularly my young friends who are feeling the cries of help from your mother, you are facing a challenge because it is more than a political issue. It is also a financial issue. There are businesses and individuals around the world who are putting profit before the welfare of your planet. There was a time when people who were anarchists would destroy new cars and other symbols of capitalism as a way to get attention for their cause. It is important for you to not use destruction as a way to stop destruction. You need to use your energy and passion to educate those who are willing to listen. There will be a tipping point where humans will no longer be willing to financially support organizations and individuals who are robbing you of a sustainable future. Do not forget to join together with other organizations that have long fought to protect and sustain life on Earth. There is also the political aspect of climate change. As citizens of America, your vote matters. While you may be too young to vote, you are not too young to support and work for candidates who share your passion for protecting your planet. While working with others, whether for a political candidate or an action organization, it is important for you to realize you are part of a dynamic network of people who are equally devoted to stopping man-made climate change. And then my guides went on and stopped for a moment and said, this is for parents. Dear parents of these young light workers, you have an important job to support their passion for protecting the environment and helping maintain Earth's ability to sustain life. There will be times when your children feel hopeless and they will want to retreat from the destruction they see on your planet. It is in those times that you remind them they are light workers who are here to expand humankind's awareness of the challenges they are facing. Participating in whole body exercises such as yoga, qigong, and tai chi will help them remain connected to universal energy that is always available to nourish them. It is also important as parents to refrain from talking in doomsday terms about the future of life on Earth. These children are highly sensitive, and you do not want to give them reasons to leave Earth sooner than they should. I will encourage all of you to learn to tap into the universal energy that is here as guidance and wisdom. Some of you are already connecting to this energy, and it fortifies you through the challenges of this most vital struggle. Others of you have yet to connect to this field of love. Much gratitude to you for your deep love for your planet. And then several weeks later, just out of the blue, my guides started like saying something over and over, and that's when I know I need to sit down with a pen. And it had to do with climate. It was like climate 2.0. And so I just decided, okay, here goes. For those of you who are searching for ways to stop climate change, we would say that an even greater consideration needs to be made for environments in general. Climate change is a result of not paying attention to and dealing with overburdened environments. Humans tend to look outward to blame others for the obvious destruction they see. And we would say that simultaneously, you need to be looking at your innermost environments. In many ways, the imbalance of Earth's environments is a reflection of man's inner imbalance. The number of people with anxiety, depression, sleeplessness, etc., are results of that imbalance. When you are unable to take care of your human environment, your body, it is difficult to properly care for your earthly environment. There would be such a dramatic shift if you focused inward, healed yourselves, and then focused outward, so that healing reached your family, community, nation, and Earth itself. It is as though you exist within concentric circles, and each circle needs a healthy, spiritually balanced environment. The environment of social media shows the lack of civility and imbalance of far too many of its participants. Civil discourse is polluting human interactions. We can only suggest that you begin with yourself and create environments that are nourishing and compassionate. It is through conscious choosing and conscious action that the environment of your mother will heal. But that conscious action must begin with your own life. Be aware of choices you make and how they impact your inner life and how they impact others.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I know this is the second time that I'm hearing this message from you, because you shared you shared this message once, and even the second time, I'm still getting goosebumps just
Mm.
hearing about it. And it's just, I think it's so important. And I really thank you for sharing that, because I know that it takes a lot of courage to share these things that are that we're being guided to share, and it's really powerful. I'm sure people are still trying to process all of that. Is a lot to take in. So for anybody who's watching, just take a moment and take all of this in. I know it's a lot of information, and it's a lot of really powerful information. So thank you for sharing that, Paula. I appreciate that. One thing that we've talked about, the overburdened environments, and also I think something that really caught my attention when you were sharing that is the inner environments. So it really sounds like if we're not taking care of our Mother Earth, it's because we're not taking care of our own environments and our inner environments. So I wanted to see if you can share what are some practices that you have used and also you have used with your clients to take care of your inner environment so that you can spread out all that love and all that goodness that is in your heart.
So one of the things I like to try with my clients is teaching them about mindfulness. And for me, I think mindfulness probably works even better with children and with some adults than talking about meditation. And I think it might be that many people think meditation is, you know, having your mantra that you're going to repeat over and over and, you know, sitting in one place and you're not supposed to move because feeling the discomfort in your body is part of the process you're trying to get past. But I'm trying to find techniques that will work with families that are very busy, with children who spend most of their time in their cognitive minds thinking about things and trying to solve problems, and how to get them to be mindfulness of something besides their thinking. So I might try something with them where I'll play a piece of music. I ended up taking a 2-week mindful music online course once, and it was really wonderful. It was presented by someone who's a songwriter, and she would play a piece of music, and then you needed to follow one instrument through the piece. So rather than paying attention to all the different instruments and, you know, was it getting louder or softer, were the notes high or low, just try to see if you could isolate that one musical instrument, whether it was the guitar or the drums or, you know, something like that. And I found it so interesting because I sometimes would just get caught up with the beauty of the music and just feel so peaceful for the music, and then be like, oh my gosh, I've been forgetting I'm supposed to be listening to the piano. And so it was a really good lesson to me how difficult it is to pay attention to one little thing in the moment.
Mhm.
And so I once, for the Davidson Institute, which Davidson is a place where highly gifted children can take online classes and their parents can take some workshops, I ran one on mindfulness. And, you know, on one day of the week, it might be that we were doing something around music, and maybe it would be around our body, or maybe it would be in nature. But one that was fun had to do with like eating, being mindful of what you're eating. And there are some books about mindful eating, and Thich Nhat Hanh is just wonderful in talking about, you know, mindful walking, where you're just taking one slow step in front of the other. But with kids, it's kind of neat, like to take a tangerine or an orange, because as soon as you open it up, it sends out like a little spray, and you can smell it, and it lets your taste buds know what they're about to experience. And then just to eat that so slowly, where you're just taking one little bite and you're paying attention to what does it feel like on your tongue, and what does it taste like, and what does it feel like as it's going down your throat. So I try to wake up my clients to their bodies are aware of so much more than they give it credit for, because they're always, well, can I just shove this in my mouth while I'm doing my reading or preparing for a test? Or, you know, for kids who have hyperlexia and just want to read, they're just shoving food in their mouth unaware of it until the bowl is empty. So I try to take them to another place where they experience these wondrous senses that we have, and I invite them to start using them purposefully. So that's one idea. Another thing is, many of us who are highly sensitive and spiritual stay up in our heads and connected in the higher chakras more than we are into the lower chakras. And so sometimes it can make us very heady. I've had several clients before who the teachers might say, I think this child may have ADD. When the child, you know, when something just isn't particularly interesting in class and the child just like floats away somewhere else, thinking about things, maybe even getting messages from a higher source that are so interesting, or being in their visual spatial head and making a movie of something and then caught off guard when the teacher calls them by name. So what I like to do with them is make sure that we get them into the first 3 chakras. And so that whole idea of imagining yourself, you know, that you're a tree, and letting those roots go deep into Mother Earth and make that connection. And then maybe say to them, imagine you're breathing through your toes right now. Take a breath and let that air and energy come up into your toes. And then have it be your toes and your feet. And you know how you gradually work up your body so that energy is just coming up this way. And then you can allow it to come down from the heavens back in all the way, so that they become this container that has both earth energy and universal energy coming in, because that's what we're capable of doing. But continue to remind them that they actually have a lower body. And what's really cute is how many of these kids who spend a lot of time in their head may also be clumsy. They are not paying attention to, you know, the human form of their body and what it is doing for them, and like spacey and noticing things, so they're going to trip over something in front of them. And so just trying to help them to be, you know, like we've talked before, fully human and fully divine. And the fully human isn't just your brain, you know,
Right.
It's that whole container of the body.
Yes, there's so much in there that you just shared. I love how you talk about that, coming back to our bodies, and you have shared some of these embodied practices like Tai Chi and Qigong and mindful movement, which I love that you shared that, because for me, this has been super helpful. Movement is just so important for us to just get everything out, and the mindfulness as well. So trying to combine those things and being less in your thinking mind and more in your body, it's super important. So I think that practicing silence is super important, and practicing movement as well. And I know that you have a morning ritual that you practice every day that it involves some of these practices, and I love that. And I have a similar practice with mindful movement, and also taking at least 3 deep breaths every morning before I wake up, and just trying to be grateful for being alive. And I wanted to see if you can share, I know your morning ritual is longer. Mine is like 5 minutes. But I wanted to see if you have any advice for parents who might be very overwhelmed right now, especially parents of twice exceptional children or gifted children or highly sensitive children. How can they create some more rituals and more intentional practices within their days to feel more, to be more in their bodies, and be more at peace with themselves?
I'm glad you used the word ritual, because really it's as though I am telling my body, my spirit, how important it is that I'm going to take this time to do it. And I even do it on vacation. I know that may sound crazy, but it's so important to me, and will help me, because of my high sensitivities, maneuver through vacation, which can be more stressful for me personally and make that barrel full, and I want to, you know, have it be as calm as it can be. So one of the first things that I do is a series of tapping. And my ritual is very eclectic, and I try to have it be with my clients too, so they find something that's nourishing for them, rather than feeling like, yes, anybody who works with me, we're going to be in this cult and we all do this, the same things the same way, because that's the only way it's going to work. No, the reality is we are all unique and need to find the things that really resonate for us. And so Donna Eden is someone who's very well known for energy medicine. And so I do a series of tapping in some of the places. And so I might, you know, be tapping right here and then the middle of my chest and, you know, down my legs. And I have found some others where bringing vibration into your body first thing in the morning is very important, because after sleeping all night, your energy may be very stagnant. And so it starts with actually while I'm laying in bed and my legs are straight out, I take my feet and just start tapping the sides of the feet together. And what that's doing is it's putting vibration into my feet, but all the way up into my legs. So when I go to take my first stand in the morning, I already have had energy moving through my legs. And then I do other kinds of tapping in lots of places where we have lymph nodes, including under the arm, you know, down where the legs come together into the hips, and just like really trying to move it. Now, I do Thich Nhat Hanh's mindful movement, and there's a very small book with little pictures for kids that's great, and it's called Mindful Movements with a CD. And it shows those movements, and they're meant to be done slowly. You do each movement about 4 times. So it might just be like lifting your arms out and down, you know, and then eventually the arms are going up, and then they're coming in and they're going out. You're doing some balance where you're standing on one foot and doing some things, but it just feels so beautiful to be honoring myself in this way. And then I do a short series of Qigong where I'm moving, purposefully moving energy through my body. And after I do those, you know, I end with Qigong shaking. And that's a really nice way to bring vibration. But you start with, you know, shaking your hands and then shaking your arms. And then you're just like lifting up on your heels. You're not jumping like on a trampoline. Your feet are, your toes are planted on the ground, but you're just like shaking your body, and do that for 5 to 10 minutes. And at the end of that, my hands are so full of just wonderful chi energy that then part of my meditation routine is actually doing self-healing. So I'll take this wonderful ball of energy, and I teach my clients to build a ball of chi so that they can start feeling what that is. And then I place one hand near my belly to the lower dantian, the energy center. And then whatever it is that needs healing, whether it's, you know, that I had the beginning of cataracts, and then I just put the energy near my eye with the intention that I want it to be healed. And I can really feel the energy going in there. And for me, it's another way to like be meditative, not thinking all kinds of thoughts in my head, just, you know, just allowing energy to move through my body. And then I do guided writing. If an idea has kind of been nudging me, I just sit down and start writing. If nothing has been, then I'll pose a question. Or like Lee Harris, thank you for introducing me to Lee Harris. As Lee Harris suggests people do, just asking the question, what is my soul? What does my higher self want me to know today? And so I do that. Now, I'd like you and the people who are watching us to know I'm someone who doesn't like to write. It takes a lot for me to think like, what will be my opening sentence, and what will be coordinating ideas, and how can I end it with a sentence that seems to tie everything up? Yet guided writing, you know, when you look at it, there's never been any kind of a correction or, you know, change it to this, or it's like I am a scribe. And so at the end of all of these things that I've done for myself, this writing is just like giving me suggestions about how to live my life, how to be aware, how to be awake, how to be loving, maybe something to watch for in the day. And so then at the end of that, I'm ready to have breakfast, which is also very important to me. You know, I never skip breakfast.
Thank you for sharing that. And I know, just for some background, since you mentioned the guided writing, some background for anybody who's watching, and that message that Paula just shared, that was given or that was accessed to through guided writing, right? And
Yes.
I'm starting to play around with guided writing. I do a lot of journaling, but guided writing, like you said, where we have our thinking mind maybe telling us, no, this go this way and that way. But I know it can be very powerful. So anybody who would like to try that, I think it's very powerful. And there's just so much that I would love to talk about, Paula. All the all the things that you're sharing, it seems like we're tuning into the same messages. So I really love that. I love connecting with you every time that we connect. So thank you so much for being here. I think I would like to know if there are any other final words for anybody who might be watching, and anybody else, anything else that you would like to share.
Yes, there is really one thing, and that's parents of my clients and most parents of gifted and 2E who I've met before. They will do anything to help their kids feel successful at school, you know, getting them ed therapists, taking them to counselors, going in and advocating for them at school. And yet somehow these parents who are, you know, were gifted children themselves, many of them, and now are gifted adults, they don't give as much time and attention and advocacy for themselves. So I will invite those parents to start doing some of the things that I talked about, really trying to nourish that gifted, sensitive aspect of themselves that maybe has never been paid attention to and still isn't, because the focus is on the child. And in the same way that my guides talked about taking care of ourselves before we can have the earth change, that maybe the same message is really for parents. Take care of yourselves, and then in that concentric circle, you're going to be better able to take care of your child. And the child may be watching the modeling, watching the change that's taking place in you. You may not have such a short temper because of all the things that you're having to juggle, and your barrel may not be as full either. And so I'm just going to encourage parents that this isn't just about your children. This is about you too.
Yes, that's super important. Thank you for sharing that. I know it can be really easy to forget about our own needs, and especially if you're parenting a child who has unique needs. Parents might forget about their own needs, and it's just so important to just focus on that as well. Thank you for sharing that. I loved our conversation. I really hope that anybody who's watching found something valuable, and I will share your information on the comments. And if you don't mind, what's your website so that people can find you? I will share it as well.
It's coachingthegifted.net, and there's a place where people can send me a note, and I would love to hear, you know, from some of our viewers. Continue some of this dialogue.
Yes, I will actually love to continue this conversation. And you had mentioned before that maybe if anybody was interested in asking you some questions, or maybe letting us know what's something that they're curious about, that you will be happy to come back again and maybe answer some of those questions. So
I would love a follow-up. That would be great.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Paula. Thank you for everyone who's watching, and I hope those messages, let that sink in and process that, and let us know how you feel about that. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Paula. Have a great rest of your day.